Hello folks, welcome back to Bioshock Infinite. I've decided that I'm the kind of person who says folks now. And here we have a trio of kinetoscopes that sort of, in very propagandistic fashion, tell the story of the beginnings of Columbia here. We literally stand behind the Prophet. Alright, so yeah, there you go. I know there was no words to, not talk over there, but I wanted to show that part off. Oh, there's words to not talk over here, though.
Aperitif.
So yeah, she gives you a thing that makes your shield happen. And yeah, once again, I'm just gonna kind of let these parts with these two go without comment for right now, because you're not going to, or the game isn't going to tell us exactly what their deal is until quite late in the game. And there's a Voxphone in here. There's a ton of food in here if you're low on health at this point in the game. There's lots of food in this kitchen here. This Voxphone isn't the most important one. But yeah, it's the guy who wrote the biography of Comstock. And this guy's an anti-Semite. But yeah, those little kinetoscopes, I know that the, turn-of-the-century American patriotic march music is kind of annoying to listen to 3 times in a row, but wanted to show it off because it is very important backstory that essentially Comstock had this huge show of force from Columbia, with Columbia originally just supposed to be, it was, the idea for Columbia in the game was inspired by the 1893 World's Fair in Chicago. I know that what's-his-face, I think Ken Levine, is that his name? Who, from 2K, who did System Shock and all that. Oh yeah, the Skyhook lets you do dope shit like that. You can magnetize onto those hooks and swing around. We'll be doing even more stuff with that later on. And this is the sort of classic weapon setup that I usually go with. I find the pistol and a machine gun some sort of powerful, fast shooting thing. I go for faster shooting things just because I like to be done with things quickly. But the machine gun is a good amount of damage as well as quick firing. Unfortunately, again, I really should have thought to use possession on these machines, and unfortunately I've recorded the gameplay for up to part 4 of this already, so I'm not gonna be able to really change my strats much until then, but just watching all of this and, cutting these videos together in hindsight, I was like, oh shit, I really could have just possessed these machines and then they turn against your enemies. But alas, I'm pretty sure you can with the guns. I mean, I don't know why else you have possession. It seems like every other major enemy that has a lot of mechanical bits that I try to use to kill that I try to use possession on, it doesn't work, so I've always just been confused, and we haven't gotten the one that I use all the time yet, but it's fairly useful. It works against all of the regular enemies, basically, and it works against the second most annoying enemy to kill besides the handymen, where you have to shoot them in the middle of their chest, and they're gigantic, and I literally don't know what you even do to fucking kill them. Once again, if you're like a Bioshock Infinite master and you want to share any hot tips and tricks for how especially the big boys can be done away with most efficiently, I'm all ears. I'm always willing. Like, I don't know how to just infer and try these things. I hate doing that, but if anyone wants to tell me, at least in an LP, because I want to get things going. I don't want to be dying and fucking shit up all the time. But anyway, but yeah, Comstock made Columbia. Ken Levine devised Columbia as a sort of thing on like the World's Fair. It was like a show of American nationalism and exceptionalism and culture, like particularly like obviously white culture, white supremacy, and obviously military might as well. They have these fleets of airships and all of these weapons and technologies from other dimensions that Comstock got through ways. And then the Boxer Rebellion happened, and I guess in this game's universe, Comstock's Columbia fought in it and killed a bunch of Chinese people. There's some racist Chinese, like anti-Chinese propaganda somewhere that you can find in the game world at some point. I don't remember when you come across it. And there's plenty of racist imagery about black people as well, obviously. Again, it takes place in America 1912, or offshoot of America 1912. Yeah, and then I guess the government didn't want to back Columbia in that effort, and so but Comstock ended up using his pull in Congress to approve it, or just whatever approval of his actions, and then seceded from the nation, and yeah. In a way, I guess Columbia is a little bit just like the South, but if it had remained seceded past like the Civil War. I mean, I guess not. I mean, obviously the main caveat, of course, being all of the like anachronisms that exist in Columbia because of all the quantum elements of it. And yeah, so there are a few parts of the game, and I know that this is like a thing in Bioshock games, that you don't have to kill absolutely everybody that you come into contact with. There are ways of just like hiding or avoiding enemies. I mean, it's fun to kill them, obviously, and these guys are all sleeping. I don't know if they're enemies. I don't know what happens if you like shoot them. I didn't want to try and find out, but I'm stealing the money from their dresser. And these people just stare at you. And yeah, I don't know if the police already came in, but usually you can hear them ruffling around. I don't really know. I don't know what determines like what they do, because there have been times where I've been doing this part and they've come in and just like I just stood in the room like I did just then and they saw me. But either way, you got to go out here and shoot these cops. So just waltz up. After those people are like, alright, stay calm, we're not gonna tell the cops you're here. And then you're like, alright, well, I gotta get out of here anyway. And yeah, there they come. I don't know what they wanted me to do there. I'm also not great with the laying of traps with the Vigors. I mostly just use the Vigors, like try to hit them with it, like a normal thing. But mostly because, like, I don't know, they move around a lot, so setting the traps, I'm not very precise with it. Yeah, I'm not trying to make any excuses, I just suck at the game. Very gruesome death there, and very, The Shining-esque little. I don't know what like the musical term would be for those little strings that sounds like something from The Shining. Yeah, this is what happens when you die. I wasn't really planning on showing that off.
What just happened?
But yeah, you just lose some money and you'll be healed a little bit and your enemies will be, and then you'll say, oh, what just happened? And then they'll start shooting at you. Yeah, my strategy with the fireman is just to stay far away and dodge the fire and shoot him with the machine gun because it does the most damage. All these charred bodies because he's throwing fire around willy-nilly like a wacko. I like the kinds of things that give you health in this game, like pineapples and like beer and cotton candy. And how you can just raid everyone's shit. That's one of my favorite things. I've probably already said this, but that's one of my favorite things about this game, is taking all the people's shit. That's what I like about games of this nature, where I suppose this game has sort of RPG-ish elements, but not really. But, you know, I like stuff like that. I like when you can recommend me video games where you can do things like this. You get different weapons or moves or whatever, and also you can, you know, find shit and look for stuff. Because I like looking for stuff. Point-and-click adventure games are fun for that reason. And is that another Voxophone? No, that's a medical kit and some bullets that I just passed up for no reason. Great job there. I'm sure you can tell very easily that this is post-commentary. I'm not saying it will be that way for the entire run, but it probably will be it for most of it. Whoa! You just see this guy walk in, freak out. This looks like a scene in a Tarantino movie, shooting through all the, in the banquet hall, all the rotten fucking food. But yeah, that was funny that all these guys are just hanging out and then see me come in and start geeking. And yeah, he's with some weird bloody stump thing. It's not a human thing, I don't think. It looks like a bird of some sort. But yeah. I think the Thief games are like that. They'll let you, you know, search stuff. Oh yeah, they have. So this is Monument Island, I think, is what this place is called. So you've noticed probably quite a few statues and quite a few large halls filled with things. And that is because, you know, nationalism. You gotta have big shows of power and big idolatry for your demagogues. So, and I mean specifically with Comstock, if you're leading like a cult, like a cult of personality essentially, and making yourself into a divine figure and making the founders, connecting yourself to the founders of America and calling them and displaying them as you know, deities or almost deities. That's what I think, you know, this game is ultimately about, and without getting into any spoilers, because, you know, about how Booker is connected to all of the overarching things going on in the game. I think you could say a lot for it being about, you know, sort of white men, or just American people in general, or white people in general, or America in general, maybe not, you know, citizens, but how essentially there's an inextricable link between everything that is American and everything that is that America has done that is like genocidal and horrible and bigoted, and that its leaders often do sort of develop a cult of personality around themselves, where and I think American culture in real life deifies the founding fathers and deifies leaders who connect themselves to them ideologically, like as being, not just like, I like the founders or I think the founders have good ideas, but like I am following in their footsteps, I am the heir to their project. Which is kind of giving the game away, considering that the benevolent founders were all, lawyers and statesmen and, white, rich, landowning men who were mad that they had to pay lots of taxes to ship things in from Great Britain. And so they wanted to secede from the nation and said that they were doing it with, a mind for all men are created equal except, the slaves that will provide the labor that will bolster the vast majority of the economy. And that was a gaffe on my part, shooting that gun. I'm not really sure what the point of this, like, gathering of crow people is, necessarily. I suppose this is, like, their KKK. I'm not sure why crows. Not entirely certain that I understand the symbolism there. But, I mean, it picks off rotting flesh. And this is a side quest that I've never done before, where you can get this key, and then you can backtrack to find the lock that fits the key. I don't know what it is. If anyone wants to tell me what it goes to, that's cool. But most of those sort of extra locked things that you can go get are not really all that interesting, and at the very least have nothing to do with, like, the story and everything.
Work from wealthy patrons who sponsored them from cradle to grave, from clothing and shelter. And what have they done with their freedom? Why, go to Finkton and you shall find out. No animal is born free, except the white man. And it is our burden to care for the rest of creation.
I like how this guy sitting in the pews at this KKK church just had Comstock's mixtape about how black people don't deserve social welfare because they're just gonna waste it on being people. Just brought it. Play the hits.
Full of wrath and bent on harm, the anarchist maliciously wounded several Colombian peacemakers, before then arming himself
Peacemakers.
into an assemblage of virtuous fairgoers. As of this hour, he is considered wholly responsible for causing at least 8 God-fearing Colombians to meet their maker in heaven.
I've definitely done more than that.
He is considered brimming with danger and evil intent, and we implore you...
I love old radios like that. For some reason, all of them remind me of the Disney short with Donald Duck where a gorilla escapes the zoo and he's, like, in his house hearing about it on the radio. I just love old radio voices. I feel like there isn't anybody who has that voice anymore. That, a wild gorilla has escaped from the zoo and brah. Like, I can't do it well. I guess no one can. We just lost that ability after, like, the 30s to be... I don't know, like the guy who said, "Oh, the humanity," the guy who was reporting on the Hindenburg, like, that's a funny voice. Like, it's weird to think that there are people who just, like, spoke like that. Obviously, he's projecting his voice for the, for the content, for the gram, but... So yeah, this is pretty standard Nazi, like, white supremacist stuff. You have, a bunch of phrenology junk. We'll be seeing that in a second on the projector. And little machines and things studying how, supposedly evolutionary biology and evolutionary psychology will prove that certain races are worse than other ones. I am amazed how much phrenology has just continued to be a prevalent cultural force, even to this day. Astrology, sometimes there are people who follow astrology who it basically just turns into phrenology, where they're like, "Oh, I can tell by your head that you're an asshole," and that is some gruesome fucking shit. Not really sure why Crow Guy had to do that. I'm not sure what this guy ever did. Does anyone want to tell me what that guy's deal is? What he was doing to deserve that? Was he like was he part of the Vox or something? But yeah, this is the Crow Man. He's very annoying. Throwing fire on him doesn't seem to work. You're supposed to like lay a trap and then he'll when he reappears, he'll reappear like on the trap and the trap will make fire him. But I have shit aim and that never works anyway, and I have big gun, so I use that instead. Why use fireball when gun do trick? And then that happened.
What's this? A new kind of vigor?
It is a new kind of vigor, but I can't get it because it fell through the fucking floor. And you need it to progress in the game, I think. Well, I mean, maybe you don't. Maybe you actually don't need to ever use it. I mean, it's certainly useful to have more than one vigor. But yeah, I really didn't know what to do. I thought maybe I could like hover over it and it would still prompt me to get it through the floor. I was thinking maybe I could move this guy's corpse and it would be under it, but no. So I just did this, which luckily the last checkpoint was the literal second after he died. And so there you go, there's the new vigor.
That's a hell of a thing.
Yuck. I was going to say earlier when they were in the KKK thing, in the hall of, you know, people where the Crow Guy was at first, where I got the key, I was going to say that I think you could read this game as a story of how, you know, about denying your own part. If we are to take the perspective of Booker, it's about denying your own part in, like, the ails of society, your own hand in, you know, in people's suffering, and how both as individual people and societies we sort of tell our histories to ourselves, and how that can be weaponized against people by people who want power to make them think differently about the past, about their past, about what happened to them, making people, essentially what people call gaslighting now, that sort of thing. As well as how you can do that for yourself. I think, you know, I'm just thinking about how it's significant with the quote at the beginning, who I think it's funny that it's from one of the Lutece twins, which is the two people that have shown up and did the coin flip at the beginning, if you didn't know. I think it's funny that it's just like, yeah, here's a quote from our scientist who is a fictional character, but it's cited like it's from an actual like scientific text. The quote says something about like the mind will try to invent memories where they'd never existed, and you know, that's a significant choice to make, to have that be the first thing that you see in the game when you play it. So I feel like there is some significance up there. And I do look in here, but I'm kicking myself for not trying to get up on that second balcony, that second level. I kind of doubt there's anything super interesting up there, but it would have been neat to kind of explore. I've said before that I really love the setting in this game, and I think even though I don't know if I would call it super like expansive, it is fairly restrictive. Oh, hey, this is funny.
Okay, miss, can you recall his haircut?
Was red and curly? He looked Irish to me. Yes, like that.
Okay, what about his...
I thought that was her seeing me for a second. I wanted to know what happens when you just go in there. I'm sure he shoots at you and it becomes a whole deal, but I didn't want to have all that happen. Or maybe it's not me. I'm trying to get a good look at that drawing, and maybe it was that dude who got tied up and killed by the Crow Guy. Maybe they got him. Anyway, but yeah, This is what I mean when I say that I think the combat is satisfying, because you get to do shit like that. It's cool. And then they can catch on fire if you get that thing. You get that infusion that it's like a 70% chance that they'll catch on fire when you hit them with your melee weapon. Yeah, I wanted to try to get back up on that hook and then kill that dude the same way because it would be really cool looking, but he wasn't having any of that. But yeah, I'm trying to develop like a coherent reading of this game because I do think that the story is mostly pretty good. As I've said, there are problems with it. I think the problems start to come out from in talking about like recognizing your own part in the ails of society and how everyone wants to have a coherent narrative of where they are in the world to live by, and people who want power manipulate that to create narratives for their own means. Like, that's a super potent message and everything. But especially once things sort of kick off, because we haven't really gotten to like the real inciting incident of the whole plot quite yet. We will in probably in the next video or so. But once things sort of kick off and the narrative seems sort of complicated, because right now, obviously, in this first hour or two, the game, Ken Levine insists that this game has no point of view and that, about what's good or bad. He says something in an interview about, we didn't want to, tell the audience what to think about the good or bad sides of, for instance, racism. And I was like, what are the good sides again? Like, what do you mean? You show racism, and racism is bad, so part of the story is that racism's bad. And it's, like, very obviously framed in it's the antagonist's place that's doing it. I don't think it's ever implied that Booker has, like, active racial bigotry or malice. He's certainly done a lot of terrible shit, and he has it within him, which is a very important thing to understand for the plot. That sort of aggressive and violent tendency is definitely within. I mean, obviously violence, but that sort of domination of others is definitely within him. But that wasn't the motivating factor for our main character's questionable actions.